Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we're going to be changing a set of fork oil seals in a conventional style set of forks. This is on our little Yamaha Wr125X project, so this is part 3 or 4, I can't remember now. So today we're going to be changing these fork oil seals. The process of this is pretty much the same on a lot of motorcycles, really. The other type of fork that you got is an upside down style fork, which I can show you a set, because I've got a set of those off a bike at the moment, so I'll show you those in a minute. But I wanted to talk you through just the individual components of a conventional set of forks as we go through. So this part here is what we refer to as the fork body or the fork slider. Okay, so this main part here. This part here, which is, or always should be, shiny and chromy a word? Who knows? So this shiny bit here is called the fork stanchion. These are all held in place up here by what is referred to as a top and bottom yoke or a triple clamp. I've never been quite sure why they call it a triple clamp, because there's only a top and a bottom part, i.e. 2. Or is it because there's the steering stem and then 2 fork stanchions? I don't know that one. If you guys know, drop it in the comments below and we'll all learn something today. So I'm going to start by hopefully undoing a few of these, but not with the world's longest Allen key. Right, let's try again. So I'm going to try a slightly different approach today. And I'm going to take the fork slider off the bottom of the stanchion and leave the stanchion in the bike. Now, this may be a slightly easier process if you're doing it yourselves at home, so something to consider maybe. Apologies, I'm not quite in shot, but it's not me you want to see, is it? So, let's get those off. And let's just get everything free. This is holding the speedo cable in place. And there's also some black tape around it. That doesn't want to move, so I'm going to take the whole lot off together. This is the wiring loom for the speedo, because it's a sensor, not a cable. So I'm also going to do the front tyre, the front brake pads, and hopefully start to get the handlebars back together on this little project today. We shall see how it goes. So you'll find on most bikes that there is a couple of pinch bolts, sometimes on one side, sometimes on both sides. This one's got 2 6mm Allen keys. So we literally just crack those off. You can see the gap there, you probably can't see it from there, the gap there just opened up very slightly, very straightforward though. And then we can undo the front spindle, which on this particular bike is a 17mm. Now, because we're going to try this in a slightly different way, and I'm going to slide the fork body off of the stanchion this way, hopefully, I'm going to need to drain the oil, and to drain the oil there is what I think is a 6, maybe 8mm, feels like an 8mm Allen key underneath. So I'm going to undo this and I'm going to drain the oil out the bottom. if you're doing that off the bike, then you're going to have to hold the forks in place, so it's a little bit easier with the spindling. Right, although they've, you know, they're loose, I can turn them, they're not actually coming out, probably because there's something turning inside that we need to hold. So let's have a look up the top. So on the top of the fork stanchion, guys, we've got the top yoke round here, which is this bit, and then we've got this 22mm bolt up the top. Now I'm going to attempt to undo it. Let's see what happens. Don't forget there's going to be some form of spring in here, so it's not just hydraulic, there's a spring in here as well. And you don't want to trip to the dentist, so be careful. Okay, so we just pop that cap off. There's an internal sleeve here, which I'm going to pop out, put somewhere clean. So on this side, guys, I'm going to do it the conventional way. I'm going to undo these 10mm and pop the whole fork out, the stanchion and the body, and we'll do it over on the bench. And then once I've ascertained what needs to be done on one, maybe we can do the other one with the stanchion in place and see how we get on. So let's undo these 10mm. So these are literally just clamping the fork stanchion in place. Make sure you mark these if you're concerned about the position in which they're going to go back into. So they should be undone enough. So let's pull this spindle out like that. And let's get this front wheel out of the way. So the next thing I'm going to do is hopefully just twist the stanchion. It's going to be fairly tight, it's not too bad though. And that will just drop down out of the yokes like that. Now that we've done that, I should probably be able to tip the fork upside down because we took the top cap off. The springs popped out. Let's get something to lay these components on. So pop a spring on there, and yeah, also the first thing that came out was this spacer, so that goes on top. So there's no tension in there anymore. There's some nasty coloured looking stuff coming out. So I'm just working the fork up and down to make sure that I've got all of the oil out. So now we're up on the bench, guys. I had to get rid of that speedo cable, and we can have a little look and see what is going on, and probably make a big mess at the same time. So at this end, let me move you guys so you can potentially see. Be handy, wouldn't it? Up this end, guys, we've got an 8mm Allen key in the bottom, which ideally would have been the place where we wanted to undo it while it was on the bike and let it all drain out. But there's nothing wrong with doing it the way that we done it. So it's already loose. What it's not doing is actually coming undone. So there's obviously something inside that I need to see. Right, I'm not going to hide the fact from you guys that I'm obviously missing something, so I'm just going to pop the old dust cover out. So this is not the actual seal, and I often hear people refer to this as the fork seal. This is just a dust cover, but it is the bit that you see, and it is rubber, but the actual seal is inside. So we'll pull the old dust cover off, and we'll just have a look and see if we've got, yeah, so I don't know if you guys can see that. Let me make it so that you guys can see. Not only is it a bit manky, there's also a clip. Where can you see it? Just there. There's a clip inside that is actually moving despite all the rust. So we'll pop that clip out. So that's the spring clip that was sitting inside. So you can just use a pick like that or a flat blade screwdriver. So, and that will be able to pop it out. And then the seal is already falling apart. So that's the spring off the seal. And it is really manky in there, so I want to try and clean all of that out before we do anything else, because you don't want that dropping inside the fork and then having to clean it out of the fork body. So I'll give that a good clean out now, get all that out. Right, so apologies guys, I sort of started to crack on then because I couldn't get this undone and it was giving me the ump. So this 8mm Allen key that's just the shelf of death falling apart around me. This 8mm Allen key bolt is holding the dampener rod inside the fork body. You can't do this job unless you get this out. Now this cracked off and undid, but then the fork body started moving inside. So if you've got a battery gun, in my case it's a 3/8 drive Milwaukee battery ratchet, so I held the fork up by its stanchion and started to undo it and started to sort of jiggle and put a bit of force on the stanchion, so the body was dropping down and putting a bit of weight into different places, and then as you can see it's come undone. Now we've got two open ends, so now it's going to make a big mess everywhere. So I'm going to go back over to the oil tray and or maybe not, drain that out. Okay guys, so let's give you a little bit of a breakdown as what has actually just happened here. So this 8mm Allen key bolt was in the bottom of the fork body like that. That screws into this, which is called the dampener, so that screws into the bottom of there. As I undone it in there, the dampener started to turn, which means I couldn't get it right out. So I was holding the chrome part of the stanchion up in the air with my battery ratchet on the end until it whizzed it out. Okay, luckily it's got quite a fine thread on there, or a very fine thread actually, which in this situation will make life a little bit easier. what you can see here, this really manky looking bit, look, that's the fork oil seal that's leaking. So we're gonna pull that off like that, and then we're left with a washer here and this sleeve here. So we're gonna pull them off as well, because I want to give everything a good clean up. Lay it out in order. This is a messy job, by the way, as you've probably gathered. Now this fork leg is, in the places where it needs to be in good condition, it is in good condition. Up by the yokes, by the triple clamp, it's not great. So what I mean by that is, if this is, obviously if it's bent, it's a bin job, if it's been in an accident or something. So this bit here, if it's got any pitting in it, if it started to corrode, the seal is never going to seal against it, because the oil will be able to go in the pitting, get past the seal. So this one looks nice. I'm just going to continue to give it all a bit of a clean up. And then we've got the fork leg itself, which for some reason has got a load of black tape around. So I'm going to investigate, because that doesn't need to be there. Probably find that the clamp for the speedo was so there's a small spring and a this sort of nylon plasticky bit sits in the bottom of the fork leg, so we'll have to give all of this a clean up as well. Right, so I'm going to have a tidy up of all the messy oily bits, give this fork leg a clean with the degreaser, and bring you guys back in. Right, so everything's had a good clean up and we're laid out in the order that we need to go back in. I've even, well, not even, I've cleaned out inside here, because you don't want the seal and the clip being pushed back into all that muck and horribleness that was there. So new dust seal for the top, the new main seal, which ultimately is the one that was gone. Okay, so this is why we're changing it, because the oil was coming past here and you could see like a tide mark of oil on the fork oil seal. That will fail an MOT in the UK, so that's why we're doing it. So let's get this lot back together, shall we? So let's start by getting a few of these bits back onto the stanchion. So we've got the sleeve first, then this washer, and then we've got the oil seal. Now when we're pushing the oil seal on, you don't want to turn the O-ring, sorry, the rubber seal the wrong way round, so you don't want to invert this lip. Okay, so you need to make sure you get it on there. So I've used a little bit of silicone spray, which you may or may not be able to see on here, so we can look at it upside down and make sure the seal hasn't inverted, and then we can very, very gently just pull it down the stanchion where it needs to be. Okay, so we'll leave that there. Oh, smashing the camera now. So I'm going to pop these onto here, onto the bottom of the dampener, or damper I should say. And then we're going to pop the fork stanchion back into there, and I'm just going to pop this bolt into the bottom. Then I've got my seal here, which is nice and it's got lots of silicone spray on it, so that should pop right down into there. Now you can use, and I'll see if I've got something, you can get like a slider that goes over there that you just knock the fork seal in with. Now I don't have one of those, I need to get a set of those. So it'd go over there and it's a sleeve and it bangs against that seal and knocks it down. So I need to find something else to do that job. Right, I had to adapt and overcome. This is a bearing driver that used to fit over there. It no longer does. So I quickly popped it in my lathe, bored it out, so turned it out so it fits over the fork stanchion down onto the seal, and then I was able to get a big bit of bar over there and knock the seal in nice and square. So now we're ready to put the clip in. Now fully appreciate that you might not have spare bearing seal drivers laying around, and you might not have a lathe to be able to turn the center out. I've just had a look, because I've also just ordered one, a universal set for driving the seal down the fork stanchion and into the body is $16.99 on eBay. I'll put a link below. Okay, so well worth the money, because that's, you know, just taking an hour out of my day to make something up. But we adapted and overcome, and we are ready to continue. So hopefully you guys can see that. So we're gonna just pop that clip back in, just use a little pick or something, and because we've cleaned it all out, it's just clipped nicely back into place. Just make double sure that it's gone all the way home where it should be, which this one has. Excellent. So the next step is our dust cover. So we're going to pop that over, and then the dust cover, literally we've got some silicone spray in there already, so I should just be able to push that straight over. A little bit tight at the end, but I can still do it with my hands, so that's nice. So that's the new dust cover in there as well. Then we've got this stanchion protector that has to go on last, and that goes, where does that go? That goes like that. Good. Okay, that's one done. So let's get it back on the bike, shall we? Oh, forgot to say, I've already tightened the 8mm Allen key up in the bottom when I was putting the dampener and everything in. So a little bit tricky to film when you're trying to line everything up and get it back in there, but it is very self-explanatory. So we're going to, before we put the oil in, we're just going to put the fork back into the triple clamp. And that lines up with the top there. You can actually see where it was before. So we're just going to nip these triple clamp bolts up, which are 27 Newton meters. So the next thing we're going to do is extend the fork all the way down and pop some oil in. So we're going to start popping the components back inside. So we've got the spring, and then we've got this washer which goes on top of the spring. And then we got this sleeve that pops in the top like that. Obviously we've got the top cap, which then goes over there, but we need to pop some oil in first. So a couple of ways to do your fork oil, guys, which is do it by volume or do it by oil level with the fork body all the way up and the spring out. I'm sure you guys will let me know in the comments. I wouldn't mind doing a little bit more research on this one myself, and I will do before we rebuild the upside down forks that we need to rebuild for our cafe racer build. So for this I'm using a Silcoline RSF10 suspension fluid. So that's in there, and the next thing I'm going to do is pop the cap back on because we don't want any muck falling in there. So that's one side done. So I don't think you need to see me do the other side, it's exactly the same. So I'm going to crack on with the other side and then bring you guys back in. I'll just quickly bring you back in, guys, because there is a couple of bits different on this side. The brake flexi hose runs down the front of the fork leg, and that's got a couple of small 5mm Allen keys in. But more importantly, the brake caliper. I'm going to take the brake caliper right off so that I can give it a good clean up, and I've got some new front brake pads for it because they are knackered. And I'm actually going to take the brake flexi hose right off. So I've clamped the brake flexi hose at the top so that we don't lose too much fluid. I'm going to change all of the brake fluids anyway. So I've got a 14mm banjo bolt here. The best time to undo it is now, while it's still on the fork leg. There's going to be a couple of copper washers on it. Try not to drop them in the oil. I'm going to replace them anyway, but just in case, we'll pop that banjo bolt back in there. Get that flexi hose right out the way, and then a couple of caliper mounting bolts here. Nearly dropped it in the oil. So one diddy little front caliper, so pads have had it sticking on the pins as well, so we'll have a look at that in a second. We'll get the forks done first, so I'll bring you back in when the fork leg's done. So that's the other side done, guys. Just the spring, the washer, the doohickey tube, plonk some oil in, top cap back on. Splendid. Right, that's those done. Let's go and have a look at the front caliper, shall we? Right, on with the caliper, guys. I've just given it a quick clean. I think the first problem is going to be... oh, not a problem. It came undone straight away. It's just like a little grub screw cap. And then inside there's a 5mm Allen key. So maybe that will be my problem. Nope, that's okay. Right, let's get it in the tray, shall we? So I've got new brake pads, but it looks pretty manky, and now I'm wondering if I might need a piston and seal kit, because when I was cleaning it I could see that the pistons didn't look too great. And you can, let's get rid of those because we've got new ones. So that's the top pin. And then we can just pop that carrier off, and you can see there just how minging it all is, and it's whether they'll clean up or not. Let's make sure the bleed nipple's moving. Uh-oh. Let's pop it in the vise. Okay, that was tight, but it came undone. Doesn't look blocked either. Got a clip there. We show that to the camera because that's more for me than you guys when I forget how it goes back together. So they are moving. They might clean up actually. We might get away with some seals because the seals do not look great. Look how minging it is. So let's get that soaking, shall we? I wonder if the missus is popping out. This has got dishwasher written all over it, isn't it? Right, let me get that soaking and get a caliper kit on order. Right guys, that's probably me done for another week, because it's weather's not that great. Gonna order up a seal kit for that caliper, so next week we'll get the caliper rebuilt. By then hopefully we'll have a new front tyre on this wheel, so that can go back on. Fork seals are all done, so I'm happy with that. So front wheel, caliper, lines back on, speedo drive back on, headlight, front cowling, mudguard all back on. That'll be the front end buttoned up, obviously the handlebars and the new switches and everything as well. If you've made it this far, smash that subscribe button guys, it really helps me out and it's free of charge. Drop us a comment, leave us a like. I'm Dino, this is Patch's Repair Shop, and I'll catch you guys next week.